many more. So we're going to keep it rapid. And if you've got something to add as well that I've missed out, you can do that. And if you've got supplementary questions, these four guys are going to be here all day. So, technology. Oh, let me introduce the guys first as well. That was the other thing I was going to say. We're not going to do long bios, but if you do want to say a little bit about who you are as the conversation starts, that's fine. Well, Keane, I'm looking at you first. Keane Braganza. Now, I did say that right earlier. He's the MD at Cas-Type Limited. Bryn is the sales team leader at Hollis Office Solutions. Hi, Bryn. Robert is the technical director, GDPR practitioner at RDS Global. So that's Rob Kay. And Jonathan Hope at the end is the senior sales engineer, UK and Ireland for Sophos. So welcome. Okay, my first question then, and we'll start with you, Keane. So there's a mic there for you. If there was one thing you would advise me to do as a business owner, technology-wise, before I really dived into my business, what would it be?
Well, I'm a software provider, so I actually have to say to you, training is key. The bottom line is efficiency in your business. A lot of us are small to medium enterprises. We run the country. That's stated fact. I've got a lot of stats there, which hopefully will, if you need to hear any of them, I'll bring them up later. But the key is efficiency in all our businesses. If we're efficient, we increase our productivity, and the bottom line is that increases our profitability. And surely that's why we're in business.
So you mentioned training, though. Let me just come back with a supplementary. How is that going to make me more efficient?
Well, if you train your staff, the whole idea is to train people to do things well and to do them properly. For example, our software is touch typing software. Fantastic 10, 15 years ago when the computer was actually invented or first started rolling out, had a big tail off over the last 5, 10 years. Everyone can type. Well, if you have a little look around in your offices, have a walk around, and you see everyone with 2 fingers, is that efficiency? The whole idea is to make our workplace efficient. The difference between typing like that with 2 fingers is, bottom line, 25 words per minute maximum. Using all 10 fingers, which hopefully we all have, the minimum you're typing at is 35 words a minute. We at CAS aim to teach you with our unique product in 90 minutes how to type the A to Z keys. Now, on our website, if you actually have a chance to actually have a look on the business section, you'll see a return on investment calculator, which actually shows that by just typing correctly, you can save up to £3,000, well, it's actually more than £3,000 per annum on each member of staff. It's huge, but we've all overlooked it. We're all sending our staff to Microsoft courses, to Excel courses, and we're overlooking the basics and the fundamentals. And be honest, hold your hands up. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. If I'm right, if you think I'm right, agree with me and actually look into it. But if you do have a look through your staff and see the amount of that, between 60 to 80% of your staff will be typing with 2 fingers. Imagine if you could grow your companies by an extra 30 to 40% without having to actually employ any more staff. It's all about efficiency. Surely that's what it's all about.
Brilliant, thank you. So there we are, first tip, efficiency, and back to basics, because how many of you are just 2-finger typers? If you're honest. Yeah, or even 1 finger. Yeah, that's it. That's me too. Okay, so good tip there. Okay, same question to you then, Rob. So if there's one piece of advice you'd give me, technology-wise, what would it be?
Good question. I think really for a small to medium business, it's definitely understanding the technology you're going to look at first. We've seen a lot of small to medium businesses sort of jump in there and trying to use technology that they don't quite understand. So my advice and tip really is, if you're going to have a look at technology to help through your business, is make sure you get in, I would say, a professional like myself or anybody else you know to look at it first, because as a man, the first thing I do with an instruction manual when I see a piece of technology is throw it in the bin. But these days, with the cyber risks and some of the technology that's coming out today, I'd definitely advise to look through the manual, and if you don't quite still understand it, speak to somebody like myself that can help you through it.
Okay. And same question to you, Bryn.
Right, is everybody hearing me? I've used one of these things before. If I was going to give you one tip, it'd be sort of choose your trusted partner. Be careful about choosing who you're going to work with for your IT, for your technology. So many times we get called in and the IT systems have just been pieced together as they've gone along. I have a story about where we went in and asked, we were actually just trying to install a photocopier to a company, asked who handled their IT, and it was just the bloke called Dave, and we had a mobile phone number, and he did it in his spare time because he knew the original bosses, and he was now handling a company of 200 employees, and everything was mashed together. So yeah, I'd be saying, so be careful, choose a trusted partner.
And you would say that, wouldn't you, because you want people to choose you. So when you say trusted, that's a word that gets thrown about quite liberally, isn't it? Trusted partner. What do we mean by trust?
It's experience. Obviously, I'm here to sell Hollis, so I'm going to say we've been around since 1990, and we've got customers who've been with us since 1990 and have never gone elsewhere. We've got a customer retention rate in the high 90s. So yeah, just do your homework on who you deal with.
Okay, so a tip from you about doing your homework and making sure everything's joined up, not mashed together. And that's hard, isn't it, when you've already been perhaps trading for 10 years, and it's maybe harder to undo everything than to start from scratch.
It is, but I think the move now towards cloud technology versus on-premises service, it's the time now to sort of look at your IT technology as a whole and be able to sort of say, right, we're not starting again from scratch, but we can look at the whole IT infrastructure, see how it meshes with our on-premises workforce, our off-premises workforce, and actually put something together that's more holistic in nature rather than an organic growth situation.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with that actually, because I don't know if it's all the people that have sort of one-man bands I call Dave, because we've got quite a lot of Daves that we come across. It's quite easy to find a trusted partner, is just make sure what sort of certifications they've got. They should be displaying their certifications online. So you want to be able to look for the Cyber Essentials Kite Mark. And if they haven't got Cyber Essentials, have a look at the ISO 27001. Anybody that's serious in IT support should be having those certifications. If they haven't, you need to be asking them why. And if Dave's need to go by the wayside.
Good tip. Okay, so look for the certification and make sure that they've got it in place. Okay, Jonathan, same question to you then.
Okay, so first and foremost, I would say that technology is a great enabler for business. There's so many wonderful technologies out there that help us to run businesses that are more efficient and allow us to do things that maybe otherwise wouldn't be possible. And I don't want to be the person in the room who says, well, just slow down a little, because entrepreneurial spirit is great, and I don't want to stifle that. But by virtue, I guess, of the fact that I work for a security company, my one piece of advice would be just be mindful of the technologies that you deploy and be mindful about how you're handling customer data. Regardless of what industry you're in, you will have some data on customers, and that may be the lifeblood of your business. And it's really important to make sure that whatever data you harvest and collect, that you're keeping it for the right reasons, you're storing it safely, and that the cyber criminals don't ultimately have access to that. And I think it's really important to make sure that you've got some appropriate protection in place to make sure that you're not being negligent with that data. And I don't want to commit the offence of being the first person in the room to say GDPR, but when you look at the kind of fines and the potential outcomes if data is stolen from your organisation, that's enough to put you out of business very, very easily. And it's too easy for people to rush to a technology solution without just taking a moment of recourse to just think about how am I actually going to secure this technology that I'm embracing so wholeheartedly. And I know I was asked for one piece of advice, but if I can have a 1.5 piece of advice, then cloud is in itself fantastic. So this idea of using organisations like Amazon Web Services or Azure or other outfits of a similar nature, and then outsourcing a lot of your IT burden to somewhere else in the cloud. People often think that somehow that makes it somebody else's problem, but that data is still your data, and ultimately you as business owners are still responsible for that data. So don't just assume that just because I've decided to outsource that to the cloud, that therefore devolves me of any responsibility for that data, because it's absolutely not the case.
I'll start with you and we'll come back down the line then. So they say, don't they, that the value is in your list. people that you mail out to. Usually that's online email lists. It's kind of put me off then, the GDPR, that I shouldn't really be building big lists because I've got to get all sorts of permissions and then I've got to protect that data. It's just not worth it.
Yes, I can understand that point of view, absolutely. But of course, having a mailing list and having a good contacts list is absolutely important. The key things are twofold. It's one, when you're actually collecting that data, as you rightly point out, you do need to get the appropriate permissions from those individuals and those organisations to harvest their data and maintain that data on your systems. And it's really important to make sure that you've got those appropriate measures in place. And it's also, of course, really important to make sure that you're constantly reviewing that. So, for example, if that information is no longer appropriate, then it is potentially a little bit of a burden. And you shouldn't be maintaining data for any longer than absolutely necessary. And you do need to set out from the outset, when you're engaging with customers and prospects, exactly what data you're holding and for what purposes.
Bryn?
Those 4 letters of doom, the GDPR, we found you just need to be careful about why, for what purpose you're taking people's data on, and why you're getting in touch with them. We tend to find that because most of our business comes through more referral points on there, I've got a more, we get in touch with people because we genuinely can help their businesses grow on points like these. The business of holding people's data now, as I say, you just need to be aware of why you're holding people's data, and are you taking appropriate precautions on this, and being able to say, well, we've taken all appropriate measures to safeguard what we've got.
Rob, I get emails still, unsolicited emails, and I think to myself, I'm either going to click the unsubscribe button at the bottom, or I might respond and say, please remove me from the list. And then I stopped because I thought, what if the unsubscribe button is some way of phishing, and so I just let them continue. And I don't know what to do.
Okay. Well, like you introduced me earlier, I'm a GDPR practitioner, so this is what I talk about. So how long we got?
No,
just on that subject, like Ben said, it doesn't stop anybody getting emailed GDPR. What it does do is give you the power to say stop. And I understand what you're saying about if you click the unsubscribe, is it phishing? What I do is basically make a note of the company that's emailing me and then go onto their website. On their website there should be a privacy statement. On their privacy statement there should be a contact reference for their DPO, Data Protection Officer, or some sort of compliance officer, and they're the people you need to contact to get removed from the data list. If they don't do that, then I can do lots of things to them. You start with a data subject request, and that really puts the EBGBs up them, that's for sure. And you'll soon find you'll get removed from that list. I've got loads done this last couple of months.
there we are. We were hearing in the seminar beforehand about those requests. And presumably you can make that yourself to that company.
Yeah, you do a data subject request to that company. You can do it by any written media, which is the important thing, email being the obvious one, or any social media that they're on. You can do a data subject request, and they have to respond.
What do you hold about me on your systems is the question. And I'm guessing, Keane, that you're trying to grow your business through list building.
Yeah, I mean, we're fully fully GDPR compliant, or it's always an evolving process. I mean, our product, we're the only typing tutor on the UK government's Learn Direct site. We're in probably 400 or 500 schools with our new program. Our old software is probably existing on about 800 to 900 schools. But don't let GDPR scare you off. You know, it's just 4 letters. If you have a look in the ICO, Information Commissioner's Office, there's an awful lot of information. Don't be scared off by it. It's just look at it as one of those things, one more of those things, which is put on our plate to make our life a little bit harder, along with the added competition out there. So I think that's the key thing.
What's the most common question that you get asked when people are looking into growing their business through technology? My first question is, how much is this going to cost me? I might not ask it direct, but what are typically the first questions that you get asked?
Right, well, from my point of view, obviously we're a software provider. Software, there's an awful lot of software out there, including freeware. Now, freeware, everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to get this for free, and I can learn this, but there's usually a catch with freeware. Do people give things away for free? And if they do give things away for free, is there some sort of a cashback issue to go with it? With freeware or with paid-for software, you never have to worry about advertisements, pop-ups, your data being sold or used. Now, that is one of the key things. Now, from our point of view, where our software is in so many schools and we're looking to grow that, our software is in so many businesses and we're looking to grow that, the implications are enormous if we get it wrong. Someone on this panel just mentioned earlier on, your business could be out. And yes, you lose credibility and that's gone, finished. So don't be scared off by anything. Everything is designed to protect us. Look at it that way. So, from a point of view of cost, yes, we all have to make a living. We all have to generate profit. Mine is through efficiency. In previous life, I used to have a printing company, which was, how printing has actually changed over the course of the last 20 years. It's huge, the development. But efficiency was key in that business. I only had 30 staff at the time, and trying to get every single part of that department working correctly, efficiency was the key. So I understand what efficiency makes and means to business. The majority of small to medium enterprises are usually 1, 2, 5 people strong. And you tend to find you're working all the hours God gave to actually make ends meet. So the key is to work efficiently, work smart.
Thank you. Rob, most common question that you get asked when you sit down with someone?
Other than how much it's going to cost.
Other than?
I suppose the next one is, what do we do first? We may identify as a business that small to medium business, you need to do X, Y, and Z, steps 1, 2, and 3. And I suppose the first thing we sit down is understand what the business is and plan our roadmap. So we can advise then on what steps to take first, where to put the money, what's your highest risk, is probably the best advice on that one, yeah.
And Bryn, first question?
The first question always is how much it's going to cost. Second question is usually how much it's going to cost.
Is it really going to cost that much?
Yeah, and are you serious? Is it really going to cost that much? However, the main question I tend to get asked is, why should you change? We've got a method of work now. Why should I change? Because when you come in, you try and show them the end product being very similar to how they're working now. And that's one thing I've learned now over the years, is that you shouldn't go in and try and change people's working methods overnight. As soon as you go in and start changing people's working methods, you build a resentment towards the technology people are bringing in, and then that suddenly goes out. My personal area of interest is the paperless workflow, which causes no end of hilarity, considering my main job is selling printers. But many offices ask me, say, can we go paperless, can we do this, all the advantages of this? And then you see systems have been put in, and people who inherently like paper just resent the new system and hide their paper, and in many respects actually produce a rise in printing, where people print stuff, shred it immediately, and then need to print it again. So I say the biggest thing is, don't go in and change people's working methods. Actually go in, understand what they're trying to achieve, and then try and help it, just make it slightly more efficient, and then sell it on that point.
Good one. Jonathan, first question you get asked.
Typically, one of the common questions that comes up almost immediately is, what's the return on investment of investing in security? And from the outset, it's quite a difficult one really to investigate in any great depth, because there's no obvious immediate apparent return on investment, and it's very difficult to say, well, the reason why you're buying this stuff is to make sure that you don't get hacked and you don't get fined, all that sort of stuff, because it's very difficult to put a number on it. But what I would say is just take a few moments to consider, actually, when you start deploying technologies like the sort that you can buy from Sophos, it's not just out and out about security, but then it also helps to facilitate some other really useful side benefits as well. So, for example, we can provide secure frameworks for people to work remotely, for example, and there's numerous well-documented benefits about allowing your staff members to be able to work from home and work remotely, for example. And also we can put in technologies to control things like web content filtering, so we can drive efficiency by making sure people aren't browsing unproductive or unsuitable websites at work, and obviously the associated costs of wasting time on those side of things. Another question that often comes up as well is, do I really need this? And often there is a perception that because maybe I'm a smaller business, maybe I'm not actually all that interesting to cyber criminals. And one of the things that we consistently find at Sophos Labs is actually a huge proportion of malicious content and malware, viruses, that kind of thing. They're actually distributed out largely randomly. So the cyber criminals don't really know whether they're targeting somebody who's a blue chip organisation or whether it's a one-man band operating out of a spare room. And you are almost equally as likely to be impacted by malware, regardless of your business size. So it's definitely worth taking a moment just to add in, that extra level of protection. And one of the big differentiators between those large organisations is often they will have a large IT team and they'll have a large IT budget to be able to invest in these kind of security technologies. So they're often in a better place, unfortunately, than those smaller organisations. And one of the things we strive really hard to do at Sophos is to take what is a very complex world of IT security and distill it down as much as possible to make it accessible to people who aren't necessarily out-and-out security experts.
Okay. How many people in the room are sole traders? Got their own business, work on their own, yeah? How many have 5 or fewer employees? And how many of you haven't got a business yet but are thinking of starting one up? Okay, so everybody in the room is working for themselves or for a company. Some are only with small teams. So, Keane, I'm going to ask you, for those that are working in smaller teams, working from home, you've mentioned, either part of a bigger team or at home, or they're just setting up for the first time, what technology do I need? What would you advise me to get?
Just depends on your business, obviously. There's no point getting involved in software if you don't use a computer. What we have to be thankful for is the day and age we live in. I mean, for goodness sake, we're in the Midlands, which has seen such huge regeneration and rebirth over the course of the last 20, 30 years. I was young enough to be, my wife actually is from Coventry, so I was young enough to actually see the Midlands or Coventry and Birmingham in a different light. Huge changes over the past 20 years, thank goodness. But what we have to remember is, industry has changed. You look at companies like Aston Martin, fantastic product. How many times did they almost go bust? How many times have companies had to regenerate? It's all a question of evolution. We have to look at ourselves individually and continually look to improve ourselves. We've been given fantastic opportunities. We've got fantastic array of support around. We just need to tap in on what suits our product. So, from my point of view, if you think my product will help you, then great. The whole reason for my product being there is to help you. If we help you, you're going to spread the word on us. Thank you for growing Kaz. If Kaz helps you, Kaz gets the kudos for it. And in the same way, you need to look at your company from your own perspectives. How much effort are you putting in on a daily basis? You employ staff to either be better than you or to replace you. If you're replacing yourself with someone who's inferior, then train them to be better than you. Because it's only by replacing someone with someone who's better that you can actually progress. Because what is the point? We're all here to make, bottom line, a profit. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to.
Rob, what technology do I need?
Cloud. I think most of the guys here on the panel today will agree that cloud has come on leaps and bounds in the last few years. It used to be, in the old days, we all used to buy a piece of tin and stick it under a desk, or if we had a server room, stick it in a server room. Nowadays, it's all cloud. And there's good reason for it. Is there's no point actually buying anything these days, because as soon as you've bought it, it's out of date. So moving forward, you can rent, everything's moved to a subscription model. I mean, we all know Netflix, you subscribe to Netflix, you subscribe to Sky, it's all virtual reality. So I would say rent it, subscribe to it. It's not yours, it never will be. but at least somebody else is looking after it for you. And like Jonathan said at the end, it's still your data. You still got responsible for the data, but somebody else will look after the tin. They'll make sure it's up to date. And I think that's the main thing for any small to medium business nowadays. It's move forward to cloud. And I know nowadays if we get without the internet, what do people do? Well, we just sit around twiddling our thumbs because there's no such thing as paper backup anymore. There's no restoration. It's just all cloud-based. Definitely agree with make sure you've got the right partner, sign up with a cloud basis, and you'll move forward quite happily, I think.
Brent?
I'd just like to say, yeah, Rob stole my answer there. No, cloud. It helps every small business startup in that you don't have to lay out for hardware costs. There's no initial big costs. You can then switch to a subscription model. You can plan your business budgets accordingly then. You know you've got a monthly cost that goes on your IT services, and then you can almost see the return on investment then it's paying for itself. I've got a personal story on this one in that last year I really had to put my money where my mouth was. I took over a business with my stepson. It was an indoor climbing, rock climbing and bouldering facility, very run down. And we took it over specifically to give him something to do after he left college. But I had to set up the IT systems here. We couldn't afford big servers, but we needed file storage facilities. So we took out a cloud service to be able to, we went with Office 365, did SharePoint facilities so that we had secure files, we had accessible files for members of staff who were just on the desk but didn't want access to the higher management files. We ensured he was always in connection with potential customers out there on the web, on the net, using social media, all these sort of points. So when it comes to that, cloud, most definitely. It's also about understanding your business needs. It's about coming in and saying what we're actually trying to achieve with that business and how can technology help. A lot of people, I think, just sort of automatically these days think they need something without actually realising that what it's going to actually do for them. So yeah, make the technology work for you.
Okay, and Jonathan?
Okay, one piece of technology I would say everybody would definitely need is some form of, I want to say endpoint protection, but I'm aware that I'm very much ingrained in an industry, and if I said antivirus, that would probably resonate better in the room, although the story's moved on a little bit, but certainly some form of antivirus and endpoint protection would be my recommendation. And that is a piece of advice that transcends both your professional and your personal lives. And if every piece of electronics is running some kind of operating system, I would wholeheartedly advocate putting some form of protection on there. You know, our labs see on average 450,000 new strains of malware and ransomware on a daily basis. That's a huge quantity of new malicious content that's out there. And it doesn't matter whether you're running Windows or Macs, these operating systems are all equally vulnerable. And increasingly so are mobile devices as well. So whilst we have lots of other diverse bits of technology at Sophos, the one piece I would suggest that you would definitely need is some form of protection on all the electronic devices that you purchase and use in your business.
Okay, I'm not very excited, and I'll tell you why. Because all of this technology is there to protect us or to save us or to make us more efficient. But I'm not excited. You know, what technology exists that makes me go, yeah, God, I really need that. Like people get apps, don't they? And you actually don't need half the apps you've got, but they're exciting, aren't they? Because it tells you things like how many calories you've burned or something like that. You don't really need that, do you? I don't know. So come on, excite us with, because we know all that other stuff is necessary to protect us, to store, to be efficient. What technology have you come across that this room would go, bloody hell, I'm getting that now?
Okay. Well, okay, I do security, so it is a protection message, I'm afraid, once again. But one of the most exciting acquisitions that Sophos has made over the years has been the acquisition of a company that really was focused very heavily on ransomware. And if you're not sure what ransomware is, just if you allow me very briefly, it's a type of virus basically that gets on your devices, and the first thing it does is scramble up all of your data, encrypts all of your data, and then it pops up with a message basically telling you you've got to pay the cyber criminals if you ever want to be able to access and see that data again. And it's obviously incredibly impactful to businesses. And if you think back to late last year, we saw these kind of outbreaks like Petya and WannaCry that wiped out large proportions of the NHS. And it's a real serious problem in the cybersecurity world. And the bit of technology that I'm referring to is a product called Intercept X, which is a key part of our portfolio now. And the reason I like it so much is because, well, traditional antivirus, basically what it relies on is smart people in computer labs basically creating a signature for every unique bit of malware out there to see. Remember I said there's 450,000 on a daily basis. Intercept X doesn't rely on that at all. All it's doing is basically watching your computers, and if the bad guy somehow gets in and starts trying to encrypt data, we detect that and we shut it down very, very quickly. So typically within 5 files being encrypted, we've stopped that attack. And then what we're also doing is keeping a private copy of those files in the background so that we can put them back again. And what it's meant is it's really changed the world for our customers, because while previously they were really, really worried, and rightly so, about ransomware, we can honestly, categorically say that since the launch of that product, we've not had a single incident where one of our customers has lost any data as a result of ransomware where they've been using that product. So it's a real, not that there isn't always a silver bullet, but this is one of those rare moments actually where we can set our stall out and say, thus far we have never seen an incident as a result of that particular attack, thanks to this product. So it's really, I'm afraid to say in the security world, sometimes it feels like we're sometimes playing catch up against the cyber criminals. It's always a game where we're trying to catch up with them, and we fix a problem and they find a new loophole and we fix that problem. But this has really taken the fight effectively to the cyber criminals. So that's the one bit of technology that, maybe because of my unique view on the world, is something that I'm definitely excited about.
Yeah, I like the name, Intercept X, kind of, you know, does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said it's changing the world for people, you know, it's changing. I like that idea, well, this could change my world, because now I don't have to worry. Things are being sorted out before I even have to think about it. So, yeah, I am mildly excited about that one. You've got me.
That's as good as it gets, I'm afraid, for cyber security, I guess. But yeah, it is that idea of being able to detect stuff that we've not previously seen before. And it always has traditionally been a real challenge for the cyber security world. And it does feel like it is an arms race ultimately, but this empowers us with a weapon that helps us actually take the fight back to the cyber criminals effectively.
Great. Love the word weapon as well. See, I'm getting excited now that you're giving me peace of mind, and I think as business owners, business people, employees, employers, we want that peace of mind, we want to be protected, so it's one less thing to worry about. So yes, I would be excited about that. Bryn, excite me.
One thing I've learned now is never try and excite people who aren't into technology about technology. I'm a nerd. Anything shiny gets me excited. I like things like that. I like shiny things. One thing I have learned in the last few years is some of the software that's working behind the scenes in document management. One bit, again, which is close to my heart, is a piece of software we found called Convert and Share, where documents are coming in, we're able to scan them in using optical character recognition. It sees what the document is, it finds parts and actually works with that document, either converting it into a different format so people can work with it before working it off. So invoices get converted directly to Excel spreadsheets for accounts to work with before saving them ultimately, or just send them directly to the ultimate resting place, the database or the archival areas. Again, this impacted upon us quite nicely. Obviously at the Bouldering Wall we're having lots of application forms, people coming in, names, addresses, phone numbers, pieces of information which we need to keep safe and secure, but we need access to in case of emergency, self-declaration forms. I've got myself a nice little database I've designed, but getting the information from there into there is a time-consuming subject. You can actually pay someone a large amount of times to type through and get all the information in and hope it's gone in correctly, or you can just drop in 200 files just in the top of the thing, scans it through in less than a minute, and it goes off to its database where you can access the information straight away.
Wow. So we're talking about bits of paper. Do they have to be a standard size? Could I put a business card in there? Would it scan it? Are we just talking about A4 sheets?
It can actually be programmed to do anything you want on. You know, I personally use quite a number of apps that do that strictly with business cards now. You've got a contact app, someone hands you a business card, you scan it directly in, it goes off.
Straight into a spreadsheet.
Absolutely, yeah. But we're working now with the same piece of software with one of our customers who actually are a children's hospice. They've got large care packs where the variety of carers are dealing with patients, and all the notes are in a variety of places. They're in paper, some are stored on Word documents, some are stored in a database. No one's really got a clue whether it's centrally managed. So what we're doing now, we're working together with them to bring together all the documentation into one place, and no matter how it's acquired, whether it's on a written note, on a typed note, or a phone call, or it's actually just pieced together in or scanned directly, it all goes through a centralised source, converts it, and then sends it to the end database that everyone can access on the road or in the office. So
Good.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I'm excited by that. That's technology I would definitely use. Rob.
It was funny because a couple of weeks ago I was over in Blackpool, and
I'm already excited.
I know.
Oh dear.
It's not one of those stories. And what I did notice is obviously the donkeys are going up and down the beach there, and one thing I've never seen on a donkey before is the GPS tracking. So this young lady was actually monitoring how many miles the donkeys went up and down the beach every day. I thought, never thought that would ever happen. But exciting information in technology. We've all got cars. We're working with quite a lot of the manufacturers of the motor trade. And one of the things they're doing now is, so as you take your car in for a service, the car will already start talking to the dealership to let them know what sort of faults it's got. And it will even start to download some of the updates, because as we know, it's all technology these days. You have to take your car in for an update just like anything else. And so what they do is, as soon as you drive onto the forecourt, the camera will see you, and AMPR will detect your license plate. It will pop up on a database. The car will then start to download the updates it needs, its sat-nav updates, its correcting files. It will send the information to the technicians. So before it even gets to the bay, where the technician can work on it, they've already done quite a lot of diagnostics and seeing what's going on with your car. It's all an efficiency to try and speed up the technician's time, rather than you get onto the bay, then you have to plug it in. These things will start to happen. And anybody got a Volvo, you're one of the first to start this technology. And that's one of the really exciting things about what I work with on a daily basis. I mean, don't forget, just like Brent said, I work in IT, so everything excites me. Even GDPR excites me. I love it. I love talking about GDPR all the time. But you know, those technologies in motor trade are coming leaps and bounds. You know, the cars are very sophisticated now. And now the dealerships are backing that up with all the information that's gathered long before you even get anywhere near it. And I won't tell you some of the things they can really do with your car. That's another story.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm excited by that because it's an efficiency. It comes back to your original point, doesn't it, Keen? It's about everything is about being efficient. But
it is.
And I know you're excited by efficiency.
I'm excited by efficiency. I mean, I don't know how many of you will get a chance to play games and stuff, but I can't imagine too many. I know my sister, she's on Candy Crush all day long, even at work. And I think, you know, heaven forbid, if only I had time to play games. So, I mean, technology, what excites you? What do you have time for is the key. You know, life is just so busy, work is so busy, you go home, and then home life is so busy. I actually like listening to the radio, I like listening to music. So in downtime, that's what I actually like to do. But in terms of what excites me, in terms of technology, we've just relaunched, sorry to come on to CAS again, but we've launched a new product which is to cater for neurodiverse students. Now, it's a lot about diversity in the workplace, and we brought out a product which we're selling at no extra charge, and it cost us an absolute fortune to develop. But that's not the point. The point is that it's a technology which is available to everyone. The world which we live in is a fantastic, fantastic place. We just need to make it better. And that's what we're hopefully all trying to do.
Okay. Any questions from the floor about technology? I see a lot of faces looking at you guys, but they must be thinking something. Don't think that there's any stupid questions either, because I'll ask those. Anything that you'd like to ask these guys while you've got them here about any of the issues or anything that they may know about? Yes, sir.
There's a lot of business over there. Yeah, we're embracing technology, and efficiencies and productivity. But there's a moral dilemma to that. Where is that fine line as a matter of thing, where technology then starts stifling creating jobs and loss of jobs across the business?
Okay, so the question is, a gentleman's a multiple business owner. and the technology he feels might put people out of work or certainly change the way they're working, and there is a moral dilemma. And certainly you're talking about the car industry. In the end, do we need a mechanic? We probably need an IT technician more than a mechanic. But anyway, let's answer that question. We'll start with you, Kim.
It's a fantastic question. I used to actually be very fortunate. I used to be on a committee called the Genesis Initiative. This is going back about 15 odd years ago. And we live in a capitalist society. We have to embrace it. We're here because of it. We have to embrace everything which is at our disposal. If we are making a lot of money, we can always give back. There are other ways to use that. There should be no guilt attached to making money. There should be no guilt attached to profitability. There should be no guilt attached to efficiency and productivity. We're all here for that cause. Ultimately, what you have to remember, look at the Midlands as a whole experience, the regeneration, evolve or perish. We all have to evolve. We all have to continually evolve. How many of us know people who have been made redundant, who have lost their jobs, whose businesses have gone bust, whose houses have been repossessed? Are we just a stone's throw away from that? So from our own selfish point of view, we have to look at ourselves first. We have to make ourselves profitable. And how do we do that? Sorry to come back to efficiency. We have to use technology. We have to use everything at our disposal to make sure we're there. And there is nothing wrong with making a profit.
Rob, technology's there, it's here to stay. Is there any kind of dilemma for you that might put people out of work or make people redundant?
I think what Ken just said there, I think that was amazing actually. That was pretty good. No, I'm sorry to say that there's no morals in business, and don't be ashamed to actually make money. The industry we live in, IT, there's constantly evolving.
We both say don't be ashamed to make money, but what happens when technology replaces what you're doing and your business is not there? Surely the whole purpose of business is to generate and make efficiencies in the economy, and that's to actually create employment and skills within that sector, because that's the only way business is fundamentally survive. Business is all about people. Profitability is made through people. So I agree we're all here to make money. I really want to give you on it because I think it is a moralistic question.
I suppose as a
If everybody within the West Midlands, as you alluded to, suddenly said, I need to make my money, and we all know that the culture of doing business at the minute is about, I'm going to make my money and then I'm going to retire. There is no sons and sons or daughter and daughter limited anymore. So how do we actually progress the business community and actually engage and bring all the youngsters?
well,
If we took your business on and all of us collectively consumed and made profits and then went abroad to live, what about the younger generation?
well, from an RDS point of view, I can speak very highly of that. We're a partner of the Derbyshire University, and we take on academy students. So straight from primary school, so we take them at 16. We're taking 8 a week. They come in 2 days a week, and we're training them into the IT industry. We're also working with universities to bring females. We're trying to get in there early to get females into IT because we don't see a lot of young girls wanting to excite by IT. We then work with the what they call the academy at Derby College, and we're taking, I think this last year we took 4 new apprentices on in the technical team, and there's 2 joining for the what they call provisioning team, which is the engineering going out on site. So even though I'm in an industry that is reducing jobs in some aspects, like the car industry, we are also growing as a company and therefore taking on the youngsters, because we've also seen that it's very difficult to recruit people into IT once they've gone on and done other jobs. So we're getting them before they get all their I suppose skills put into them by other companies. We want to mould them into the RDS way, into the skill sets that we hope we can develop. And all being well, they'll replace me. You know, there's teams in our company now that all being well will replace me, I'll retire, and the company will go on as the generations come through the ranks.
Brent?
Great question. Edit, was it in Jurassic Park where the moralistic character was saying to the scientists, you were so busy worrying about whether you could, you didn't actually worry about whether you should. But in life, everything is evolving and technology is evolving. In business, there's like a technological arms race. All businesses just want to make themselves as efficient as possible, and if they can possibly do it through technology, they will. The moral dilemma here is, as Rob though has pointed out, is now training the next generation on to be able to live in the world that we're going to be leaving them. And again, I've got a personal point on this. My eldest daughter, all she ever wanted to do was languages. I supported her through a great degree in German and Russian. She went to live in Russia. She's done a couple of years in Russia. She's now living in Austria. She's been studying there. All she ever wanted to do was translation. And already she's finding herself, I mean, she's now 28, but she's already finding herself in a world where her job is being superseded and taken over. But she is finding more of a personalised touch. She's actually, because her language skills have now evolved to such an extent that she can talk with people, that she's doing personalised translation, absolute points on that. So she's actually learning to live in a world on a point like this. So obviously there's always a moral question about anything when we're progressing. But again, it's about training people for the future.
Okay.
John, can I just butt in a second? I think what we're all forgetting as well is the point of our competition. We have to compete. Because if we can't compete with our neighbours, in my case, other software companies, we will be out of business. And that might put 4 people out of business. As a company, it is your duty as a company owner, director, to make sure that you put everything in place. That company is its own entity. It's its own being. Don't think that you can just pull out money from it when it's going well and keep on pulling money. It's its own person. In the eyes of the government, that company is its own individual. You are custodian of that company. You can't tell your company, what differentiates us as SMEs to the large Apples and whatever is we just don't have their pulling power, we don't have their product range, we don't have their customer base. We all want to try and get there, or we all want to try and do better, but we have competition, and that's the key. We need to compete in our marketplace.
Jonathan?
Right, so whilst I understand the moral dilemma that you've suggested there where technology might replace people, I'm fortunate to say that it's not one I suffer with personally, because the products that my company produces aren't like that. We don't produce machine tools that might do the job of a human, for example. But what I would like to think about a little bit more is how technology can actually be used to improve people's lives as well. So, for example, I talked a little bit about the ability to work from home earlier on, for example, and I've been doing this job for 15 years, and during that time I've spent most of my time on the road, and my car is ultimately my office, I guess. And what I've seen as a result of our own technologies actually being used in-house, first and foremost, is where my daily grind used to be going out to see people and meeting people, and then having to come back home at night and open up my laptop and check the emails there. Now I've got a smartphone, and because of the technologies that are out there, I can be checking those emails whilst I'm out and about, and it means that when I get home from work, when I arrive back in and close the front door, I can spend time with my wife and my 2 children. I don't have to worry about the fact that I've got a whole pile of emails there, because I know that I'm gradually being able to do that during the course of the day. And similarly, I have an office which is based in Abingdon, and I only joined Sophos actually as a result of an acquisition, because I don't live anywhere near Abingdon, and the only real reason I guess I've been allowed to carry on with my job is the fact that I can actually have a home office and access all of those resources remotely. So technology isn't always necessarily something which is going to remove people from employment. It actually often enables people to do jobs that maybe they wouldn't have been able to do in the past, or would simply have been far more challenging as a result. So technology is absolutely double-edged swords, but I think if you, as a business owner, if you employ technologies in the right way, then you can you can make your employees' lives a lot more pleasant, and you can work with them and their family circumstances and whatever it might be. You know? And he talks about competition actually, and I think one thing that people sometimes forget is, as a business owner, you're not just competing for business, but often you're competing against your rivals for the skill set that's out there. And you've touched on it as well, Rob, about the lack of IT skills that are out there. So I know very well that as a security vendor at Sophos, we're competing against all the other security vendors out there. And one of the things that helps us differentiate ourselves when people look at us from an employment perspective is that we have a flexible working policy, and we allow people to be more flexible in how they actually do their work and where they do it. And I think that's an important differentiator, and it means that we do get some of the best graduates through and the best skills in-house, because we offer them, obviously gainful employment, but also an employment experience which is tailored a little bit more to them. And it's only really through technology that we can facilitate that.
Thank you, and thank you for your question, because I think it is an important one. We are on the last leg, so I've got one more question to ask. I'm going to start with you, Keane. Technology is moving really, really quickly, so what can we look forward to technology-wise? And if we were all sitting here in 5 years' time, where will we be? Where will technology have taken us?
Well, I'm hoping all your stuff will be able to type, because it does make a huge difference. At the end of the day, you've got a lot of learning providers out there in the workplace. Our course is actually on a lot of the main learning sites, such as Open Sesame, obviously the UK government's Learn Direct, Reads.co.uk, and many of the others. And I think what I would like you all to take out of today is education is key. Bottom line, we need to train people. My sons and my sons especially, they work in London, and they're always on a training course. Their companies are forever sending them on training courses, and you think, where is this going to end? I know 20, 30 years ago, you left university, you'd get your job, and that would be it. You'd never see another book anymore. But it's like, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago, it's continually evolving. And I think the important thing, which I would like to leave today's conversation with, is education really is key for moving forward. I think in 5 years' time, you need to see your company as efficient as possible. Efficiency is key to, I think, surviving. It's not easy out there. The competition is fierce. Everyone seems to want to undercut. You go in to try and get a sales order, someone's already undercut you by whatever. You're never cheap enough, so you're selling on other aspects. Your product's at top class. You're looking at other reasons why you should be that chosen provider.
Thank you. Rob, where's technology going to take us in 5 years? What can we look forward to?
I think we can, unfortunately, what we can look forward to is more mobiles. In my industry, I'm seeing the death of digital telecoms, which is ISDN 30, if anybody's aware of that, in 2025. In business today, there's no such thing as analog lines in ISDN so much anymore. It's all fibre and data. And I think it won't be long before you'll see that your home analog line, your home phone number becomes virtual. You'll just be on a mobile now. Mobile technology is moving leaps and bounds. So I think it won't be long before you're just mobile all the time. Mobile broadband, mobile connectivity. Which is unfortunate, because I know Chris Evans has been on about the last few weeks about wanting to switch his mobile off. But I think it's an unfortunate place that we are going to be at. It's just all about what you carry in your pocket, how connected you are to the social media, and how fast you can get hold of the data, as long as it's GDPR secured.
Oh, nice plug, like it. Okay, Bryn, where are we going to be in 5 years?
Well, one thing I have learned in life is never make predictions, especially when I've got a room full of people but as witnesses to say I've made them. One thing I will think of, though, in 5 years, it won't be so much the technology, it will be how people are interacting with it. You're going to be getting people who have grown up with technology, used to it, who haven't seen it as such a revolution, who understand it as part and parcel of who they are, how they interact around with the world. And so how people will interact with technology will be far easier. And again, it'll be the connectivity. They'll be interacting with their technology, they'll be using it to connect with each other far more. And I think that'll be that instant connectivity that's going to be taking it away more than anything else.
Okay. And finally then, Jonathan, you must have an insight into what's coming next.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. So I would imagine within the near future that we'll see a real rise in machine learning capabilities, and that will transcend all of our lives in all sorts of different aspects. And we're already starting to see the first sort of green shoots of machine learning being used in anger in the real world. So things like autonomous cars. It almost, even now, still sounds a bit like science fiction, but I fully foresee that in the future things like that will be commonplace. And in fact, any of you using things like Amazon Alexa or Google's Home product, for example, there's often a lot of machine learning technology that's going on underneath there. And I think we'll see an increase in the use of machine learning to solve complex tasks far faster than a human being could ever hope to do. And obviously that will drive a natural result in efficiency. And one of the things that we're using at the moment at Sophos is machine learning technologies to help us keep up with the rate of new malware that we're seeing, because we know that we don't have a labs infrastructure big enough to cope with a massive spike in the amount of malware that we see out there. So we see 450,000 samples on a daily basis today, but before too long, based on the rate of growth that we're predicting, we'll see within the millions. And there's no way we could ever find enough IT staff to actually be able to classify those things manually. So we use machine learning to do a lot of the heavy lift and actually deal with that process itself. And I was talking with somebody from, coming back to the cloud story, I was talking to somebody from Microsoft fairly recently, and they were advocating their Azure platform. And one of the things that they were using was Azure to actually help find snow leopards, which sounds really obscure, but basically a charity that were interested in the whereabouts and movements of snow leopards, they were setting up cameras all over the Himalayas trying to find these snow leopards. And originally what they were doing is employing people to sit there and look through literally hours and hours of footage, and snow leopards are very scarce and naturally quite shy. And it was almost a thankless task sitting there, but what they did is they created a cloud infrastructure so that they could upload all of the data into Azure, and it would basically, the machine learning engine would recognise the snow leopard for itself and actually just churn out meaningful results. And that poor little charity that basically didn't have enough resources to be able to really monitor the footage, all of a sudden they were able to get meaningful data out of it as a result of a conversation with Microsoft just to get Azure up and running. So that's just one little example where machine learning will really sort of change how quickly we can process data and the quantities of data that we can process.
There we are. There is a snow leopard at Twycross Zoo. There you go. You didn't need a machine to tell you that. But
save a lot of time and effort, wouldn't it?
But I get your point. So Terminator, the film, was made in the 80s. They got it right. The machines are coming and taking over. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from Keane, Bryn, Robert and Jonathan. I want to thank you all. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. The guys are here all day, they've got stands. If you've got more questions, I'm sure you have, they'll take them. We do need to clear this room, but they are all going to be out.